Welcome back. President Cyril Ramaphosa has praised all South Africans and eminent foreign nationals who walked away with the national orders. He bestowed the prestigious awards at the Sefako Makgatho Presidential Guesthouse in Pretoria. Some of the recipients included the likes of Banyana Banyana coach Desiree Ellis, Springboks captain Siya Kolisi, the late Jamaican Reggae star Peter Tosh. These awards honor those who put themselves at the service of their country and its people. Kylie Kumalo has more.
An incredibly special occasion to honor South Africans and foreign nationals who played a major role in the growth and development of the international movement of solidarity against racism and apartheid. President Cyril Ramaphosa says this is a significant occasion.
This is the first full ceremony since our country was engulfed by COVID-19 restrictions. This in itself represents the determination of a number of South Africans to rise above adversity, to persevere and to strive in pursuit of a better life and a better world.
Those who are receiving national orders embody the founding values of the country as it seeks to achieve equality, advancement of human rights, freedom and human dignity. Some of the people who were bestowed with awards include Mfundi Vundla for his work in the television and film industry, the late anti-apartheid activist Ismail Ibrahim, who received the accolade posthumously.
It was a very fitting occasion. It was beautiful with the different combinations of people who had made contributions. I noticed there weren't as many in Lutuli. The Order of Lutuli only had 4, and I was very happy that Ibi was given gold. I think that made us very proud. And you may have seen me at the end look up at the sky because I hope that he's looking down on us somewhere because this is really for him.
And the late Jamaican star Peter Tosh also walked away posthumously with the Order of the Companions of Or Tambo.
I was told that, a lot of his band members thought that apartheid was a made-up word, and so he was really ahead of his time and really using his music to educate people all over the world about what was going on specifically here in South Africa, and took a stance, to represent the people here.
Some were bestowed honors for making a significant difference in society.
Today gave me a lot of hope that we can achieve things that we think we cannot achieve. Also, I found that the people are very, very positive. They are more pro the government, provided the government is giving them what they want.
It was a moving moment as 32 recipients have been given accolades and others have passed away, but this is a glorious day as their work has been remembered. Kylie Kumalo, SABC News, Pretoria.
All right, and for some reflection on the legacy of Peter Tosh, we are now joined by his daughter, Niambe Mcintosh, and as well as human rights activist and researcher, advocate Sipho Mantula. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Late Edition. I'm going to start with you first, Niambe. One would say that surely it is a great honor for you and your family to receive that award on behalf of your father.
Oh, definitely. My family is so proud of this moment and that we could actually be here to accept the award on my father's behalf. This has been a remarkable experience.
And Sipho, one would ask, when we speak of Peter Tosh and his legacy, what sort of role did he play in South Africa's liberation?
Greetings, Mbali, and to my sister Niambe Tosh from Jamaica. I think if you look at the role of Peter Tosh, Mbali, it dates back to the late 80s in Eswatini also, when he was in Swaziland. It's a pity he was not allowed to be in this country, but his music was felt in South Africa, despite that the same building that you are in, that's the building where they used to scratch some of his music. Remember the songs like No Apartheid, songs like Fight On, equal rights and justice. But many people that Mbali, when we saw this national order coming, we say it's long overdue. This is the man who stood as the member of the Wailing Wailers. This is the revolutionary who supported the liberation movement of this country. And others will tell you, Mbali, that Peter Tosh, there's a sense that we are saying he was a real pan-Africanist. He was one of the person who stood for issues of marijuana, ganja. The issue that we see now in the world on the dollar, Peter Tosh could foresee as the prophet that one day this dollar must die. So if you are talking, Mbali, of the issues of the dollarization of Africa, of the world, Peter Tosh could see it from far. You look at his role also, Mbali, on the question of the people of Somalia, the people of Sudan, any country that was in crisis, Peter Tosh's music was a remedy and it was relevant. But it's a pity that, like I said to you, Mbali, many radio stations, TV stations in Africa, they are not giving reggae enough airtime or the opportunity to explain the role of these legends. And there's no way you can talk of Peter Tosh without the Wailing Wailers or the I3, Rita Mali, Judy Mowat, and Marcia Griffith. So it's always important. And even his family, they become part of that collective unity of who was Winston Herbert Mcintosh.
And Niambe, to you now. I mean, Sipho Mantula has just detailed to us the sort of legacy that your father has left behind. What makes you proud as a family that he is celebrated in this way?
Thank you so much for that response, Sipho Mantula. I'm actually the youngest of my father's children. And so a lot of the ways in which I get to connect with his impact is through, his music. So this moment really embodies the power in his words and the power in his ability to have impact. He was the anthem, to the liberation movement. And my family is really proud to be a part of this moment with South Africa, because I know that, you all are our brothers and sisters. And my father said, no matter the distance between, Black people, we're all one people. So it's amazing to be back home, and this is my first time to the motherland, and my siblings and my nieces and nephews and my daughter, my mom, everyone's just really, really proud.
And Sipho, when we speak about Peter Tosh's music and the impact, what sort of impact did he have on South Africa, especially in the fight against apartheid?
But I'll say to you that many freedom fighters, many liberation movements, whether the PAC, the ANC, I still vividly recall Winnie Mandela also talking about how she was influenced by reggae music when she was banished in Free State, and many freedom fighters will attest to that. Another impact, like I said to you, was just next to our border in Eswatini. Carlos Jeje, who is based in South Africa, was one of the members who was part of that festival in 1983. But the impact in South Africa also was felt in the sense that most of his music was talking to the human dignity of Africans, like what Niambe have said on the question of, as long as you are a Black man, you are an African. So the question of African identity was critical in his messaging. When you look currently, Mbali, now the debate that goes on in South Africa on commercialization of ganja, marijuana, and why every year people celebrate 420, the 20th of April. Peter Tosh also was very vocal on the issues around legalization of the herb. You go further and you look at his role, like I said, on international world, the nuclear war that was taking place in the late 80s. That's where his last album of 1987, one will say that it was maybe the price he paid for talking even about the global politics. But for Southern Africa, for the continent, and particularly South Africa, Peter Tosh was the epitome, was the beacon of within the Rastafari community, within the reggae community. Hence, Mbali, you find that many Rastafarians converted into Rastafari through the songs of of Herbert Mcintosh and of the Wailing Wailers. So like I said to you, but it's long overdue. 29 years later, we hope that it is important for the relationship between South Africa and Jamaica to be strengthened through this award of Peter Tosh. And as with Mama Africa, meaning he was connecting Africa and the living spora. Others, they call it diaspora, Mbali, but you call it a living spora, that people who were enslaved in the Jamaica or in the Caribbean, Peter Tosh became that middleman, became that middle cultural diplomat. So it is important, Mbali, that the impact that Peter Tosh played, it's a pity that we don't have Lucky Dube Museum in this country. In Jamaica, they've got Peter Tosh Museum where they are able to track and trace the knowledge of how Peter Tosh.
I'm afraid we're struggling there with Sipho Mantula's line, but we'll try and reconnect him. But maybe perhaps let's speak to you, Niambe. You know, what do you take away from your father's legacy?
That his music is still very relevant. As he said, songs like Equal Rights and Justice, there still is a liberation movement on a global scale. There still are people that, Africans that don't recognize their identity as African. I was raised in the United States, and so many African Americans, there's a disconnect there. And even within Africa, it's important that all Africans recognize the diaspora or the liaspora as you said, as our brothers and sisters, because we were just, as someone said to me, we were exported many, many years ago. And it's important that we recognize the strength in our unity, because that is where we have the most power. And my father sung about that so many years ago. And it's still very, very relevant that when we recognize the power that all of the African countries have and all of the diaspora in their intellect and knowledge collectively, we are forced to be reckoned with. And it's something that we have to see within ourselves. And I know that when that time comes, there'll be lots of change and the continuous change for progress across the world with all Black people.
And Niambe, you know, speaking to Sipho as well a bit earlier on, saying that when it comes to Rastafarian music, it's not as popular as it used to be in the past. What do you make of, you know, that sort of music, which played a very big role in many liberations for the African continent, and now that it's sort of dying in a way?
I think it really depends on where you look. You know, I know that it's not the mainstream. You know, my father's music was very, very revolutionary. And so it wasn't something that was always supported by the regime. And I think that it still holds a lot of that weight and kind of has that caliber where it's political. And not everyone's ready to have a political conversation, but through music, you have the ability to transcend boundaries. I do think that nothing happens before its time. Sometimes it takes, you know, history to kind of come full circle and reconnect with people, because there's always a shift towards balance. My father's music is timeless, and as the head of his legacy, I'm not only his youngest daughter, but I'm also tasked with carrying on his legacy. And I continue to meet new fans, old and young. So I would never say that it's dying. I continue to say that I see it growing, and I can see it living on. You know, there's a new generation now that has to be introduced. I think that what we see is that older generation that was there with Bob and there, you know, at the concerts with my dad and Bunny. They are getting older, but there's another generation bubbling, and I'm meeting new and young fans all the time. So it's just a matter of time before it starts to uprise again.
And Sipho, you know, touching on the topic of music, it's something that you also spoken, and thank you for joining us again. You have spoken that it's not given enough airplay. It's not as popular as it used to be. And saying that even in the past, it was, you know, Rasta music was used as a political tool and to connect with the people. What do you say that, you know, when it comes to the Rastafarian music, that, you know, the challenges we have now, that it's not as popular, especially in South Africa?
You know, Mbali, I will say to you, in 2017, you'll recall that the UNESCO listed reggae as one of the cultural intangible. It means that it also came back into the international and the national picture. The problem in South Africa post-94 is that I think reggae was forgotten. It is the same like the role of Lucky Dube. When Lucky Dube was killed, that we lost the momentum. The issue is all about infiltration. And Peter Tosh used to use wording like, where you have a manager, you have a damager. Where you have a producer, you have a reducer. Where you have a prime minister, you have a crime minister. So you have people who have turned reggae in this country to become like, it is not the mainstream. It is not the commercial music, it is a revolutionary music. And also, reggae music, it is gospel also. It's a music that revives the thinking and the soul of the people. Reggae music also is the epitome of the people's struggles. You look at the life and times of Peter Tosh when he was born. He was not born in a fancy spaces. He has struggled before as a member of the Wailing Wailers. So if you look at South African media and the radio stations, it's a matter of that they fear the truth that comes out of reggae music. They don't want to listen to reggae, but the Wailing Wailers used to say, just play reggae music and it will find its audience. So one will assume that it's also the unfair treatment that we've been seeing in this country for the past 29 years. You look at SABC radio stations in Bali, you look at our TV stations, there's no any reggae lifestyle program. So for us, it's a serious indictment. You look at reggae festivals in this country, there is also the monopolization or manipulation of giving reggae artists a space. The local reggae artists from Cape Town, KZN, Gauteng, who also were inspired by people like Peter Tosh, Banyana Banyana, Spear, Culture. There were many Jamaican artists who played their role in influencing South African reggae artists. So it's a matter of the attitude, which must have gratitude and which must take us to the altitude of understanding reggae music. So that's where Mbali will say it is never too late to sanitize some of the media personalities to say, think about reggae. Because if you look at the hairstyle of reggae or Rastafarians, I think it was questioned, the use of ganja. So one will look at the stereotypes that when they see you wearing dreadlocks, they see you as not clean, being filthy. And that's how reggae artists in the 60s, 70s were labeled. But we see celebrities now, they're going on with their dreadlocks. It is fashionable to have dreads. So Mbali, for me, it is the issue of reggae and Rastafari represent the cultural revolution.
All right, and I'm just going to end off with you then, Niambe. How do you want the memory of your father, Peter Tosh, to be remembered as?
I would love him to be remembered as, one of South Africa's sons, a liberator, a freedom fighter, a revolutionary thinker. He was also a comedian. So it's a side of him that many people don't know, but very caring. And he loved his people. Sorry, he loved his people. Everything, all of his music was for the liberation and upliftment of people on a global scale.
And Sipho, why should South Africans continue to celebrate his life?
They should continue even by the next month as we are going to Africa Liberation Month, when you say Mama Africa. They should continue to remember Peter Tosh on the song that I said earlier, the day the dollar died. People will start to know each other. The de-dollarization debate, Peter Tosh is on it. The issues of our identity, that wherever you go, whoever you talk to, remember that you are an African.
All right, then. Thank you very much. That is indeed Sipho Mantula, human rights activist and researcher, as well as the daughter of Peter Tosh, Niambe Mcintosh, just giving us a bit of insight there and also, capturing the life of the legend.